That's what we're going to be doing today. 8-4b is dividing rational expressions. I'm going to write it down just in case you want to refer back to it. When dividing fractions, don't be shy. Flip the second guy and multiply. Okay, key thing being flip and multiply, okay, but only the second one. You don't want to flip the first one. So let's just quick recap, okay? If I said 2/5 and we were going to divide by 3/10, okay, that's the equivalent of saying 2/5 times what? 10/3. So 2/5 times 10/3, and that would be 20/15, or divide both of those by 5, 4/3, or 1 1/3. So make sure you flip and multiply. Okay, that's what we're going to do today, but with much bigger things to work with. Are you ready? Let's do it. First problem, and I only have 3 for you, super short, because this looks just like what we did yesterday. The only difference is flip and multiply, okay? Which is not true. There's one little difference with restrictions, but I'll explain it and it'll be quick. All right, first problem, x squared plus 2x minus 15 over x squared minus 16 divided by x plus 5 over 3x minus 12. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Look what's in our denominator right now. You have this chunk and this chunk, which means technically for restrictions, those apply. Now, for the first couple, it's not going to matter. But there are problems where once you flip it, something ends up in the numerator that you have to call a restriction because it started as a denominator, okay? So we'll get there. We're not going to do restrictions quite yet on this one because we want to lay it out a little bit first. Okay, so what we're going to do is set up this first expression here, ratio. What is it going to be on top? What can you multiply to get negative 15 that you can add to get 2? 5 and negative 3. So it would be x plus 5 and x minus 3. And again, if you want to do star method, that's fine. Negative 15, 2, you would get 5 and negative 3. Okay? What does this become? X squared minus 16. That's difference of squares. So x plus 4 times x minus 4, right? Both are perfect squares, so you square root them both. You add 1, you subtract 1. Okay? Now, I do this in one step. You don't have to, but I just think it makes more sense to just do it in one step. So we're going to multiply instead, but now the bottom's going to move to the top and the top is going to move to the bottom. Okay? So yeah. So let's look at this. This is going to be our numerator now. Can you do anything with that one? Factor out a 3. Okay? So if we factor out a 3, we're left with x minus 4 up top. Okay? The x plus 5 then, now that's going to move to the bottom. There's nothing you can do with that one. So it's just x plus 5. Okay? So here's where you got to think, what are my restrictions? X cannot be what? Negative 4, positive 4, and negative 5, okay? This technically was in the denominator and is not anymore. but because it was, we have to factor it in, but we already used that one, right? X minus 4. So these would be your restrictions. And now, when you do this, you end up with some slashing, x plus 5 and x plus 5, x minus 4 and x minus 4. So what you're left with is a 3 and x minus 3 over an x plus 4. You with me, ladies? You're going to want to know how to do this. Okay? Questions on that? All right, second one. We have x squared plus 10x plus 16 over x squared minus 6x minus 16 divided by x plus 8 over x squared minus 64. All right, let's break down that first one. So if we're going to factor here, on top, you're asking yourself the question, what can I multiply to get 16 that I can add to get 10? What would that be? 8 and 2. So it's going to be x plus 8. Again, star method, if you want to do star method, that's fine. X plus 2. What about on bottom? What can you multiply to get negative 16 that you can add to get negative 6? What can you multiply to get a negative 16? Negative 8, positive 2. So x minus 8, x plus 2. Okay. Now here's where we switch it up. We were dividing. We're going to multiply instead, and now flip it over. So this x plus 8 is going to go to the bottom. X plus 8, nothing you can do with that one. What about this x squared minus 64? Difference of squares. So this is going to be x plus 8 times x minus 8. Okay. So before we start slashing, what are your restrictions? X can't be 8, negative 2, and negative 8. Okay. Again, those are up here. We've already used those, so this is it. Okay. Now you can start slashing. So x plus 8 with x plus 8, x plus 2 with x plus 2, x minus 8 with x minus 8. The only thing you're left with is an x plus 8. What? Yes, last problem. This is the one that has the little tricky element to it, though. It's not really tricky. I mean, it's a little tricky just because people forget about it. All right, so this one, y squared minus 49 over y minus 7 squared divided by 5y plus 35 over y squared minus 7y. Make sure I wrote that down right. Yes. Do you want to try it on your own? Yes? Okay, try it. So if we take, what is this going to become? Y plus 7 times y minus 7, right? That's difference of squares. This I would just rewrite as y minus 7 times y minus 7, right? That's y minus 7 squared. Then you're going to multiply. What do you factor out of this? The y. So it's going to be y. This is on top, right? We're flipping it. Y times y minus 7. What do you do with this one?
5.
Factor out a 5. You're left with y plus 7. Okay. So you got to do restrictions. And here's where the mistake gets made. This would be x cannot equal what? Y. Why? Good thing you're paying attention to all my y's today, huh? Y cannot equal 7. So that takes care of this one and this one. What about over here? Negative 7. Okay. What about up here? Because that was on the bottom. 0. Okay. This can't be 0 by itself, so y cannot equal 0. So don't forget about that last one. Let's take some of that scribble away. There we go. Okay, so those are your restrictions. And now you can start slashing. So y plus 7 with y plus 7, y minus 7 with y minus 7, y minus 7 with y minus 7. So all you're left with is y over 5 with these restrictions. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah? That's it. Very much like yesterday.